Hello and welcome to the latest Gerry Joe Leeds United show. I'm joined tonight by Luke, who is perhaps better known from the Art of No Better podcast, and Shaun, who was with us last week as well. So we're going to have a wee bit of a chat. We're going to get finalise our thoughts on just how good Leeds were against Leicester, and then we'll talk about Everton and just a few other bits and pieces then to discuss. But so obviously 3-1 away to Leicester, probably a lot of people didn't expect. I know, kind of. I certainly would have been pessimistic about that once, especially after what they done to us at Elland Road. But it was a brilliant result. What did you make of the game yourself, Luke?
Yeah, pretty much exactly that. Went into the game with not all that much sort of positivity, really. I thought it was a bit of a, and I don't like the term free hit, but we'd done the job on Newcastle that as expected, although we didn't play that great. And yeah, came out against Leicester, an absolutely revitalised team, totally chalk and cheese to the prior three performances. What I would say is I think Leicester massively missed Ndidi and Vardy. Vardy specifically, just his movement and if you sort of watch him, even when he's not scoring goals, he's dragging 2 or 3 defenders away every time he makes a run. So, but yeah, fantastic. Don't take anything away from the boys. I thought they're absolutely fantastic. Everybody who got on and everybody who started as well. Shame to get a couple of knocks out of it, but yeah, all in all, really, really good performance.
I completely agree with that. I think out of the two guys now, I really rate Ndidi highly. But what I would say, obviously, he didn't play in the Elland Road game, so I think in that particular game, I was kind of looking at it and I was thinking back to the game and thinking like how much Vardy really terrorised us in that game. And I thought even we were able to meet Leicester a bit higher up the pitch, and we didn't have that same threat of, if we press them, they're going to just play it over the top. What was your thinking yourself, Shaun?
It was an enjoyable watch, wasn't it? Which is when you look at some of the victories we've had this season, and even the previous game against Newcastle, that last 30, 40 minutes wasn't overly enjoyable. It was edge of your seat stuff, and I just felt, even I was watching the game with my son, and I said to him after 5 to 10 minutes, we've started this game really, really well. We're on the front foot, and some of the movement off the ball was really, really good. And then what did they score after 12 minutes? I think it was. They scored, and I just looked at my son and I said, I can't believe we were 1-0 down. But I then think that what we did was the perfect response, wasn't it? Scoring within 2 minutes, equalising within 2 minutes. And then I just felt that put us even more on the front foot, and they became a little bit more wary of us. And I just think then, from then on, particularly the next maybe 30 minutes of that first half, we absolutely dominated that first half, and we posed them problems which they were in the reverse game at our place. They were posing us, and I just thought it was a really, really enjoyable watch, and up there with our best performances of the season. I generally think that.
Yeah, I'd say about it being one of the best performances myself. It was kind of like you had like the West Brom game, which was obviously great. Newcastle game was great. There was a few other ones, but I think sort of some of the best games for me have been like that. The game there at the weekend, beating Aston Villa when we did, and beating Everton, because at that time they were kind of teams that were sort of like everybody was kind of talking about them. And we went into it thinking, or well, certainly the main sort of stream media went into it thinking, Leeds will not hurt them, and we did. And I like on Sunday, I kind of spent like the part of the second half thinking to myself, we've played really well for a team that's going to end up losing this 2-1. It just kind of felt like that was the way it was going to go. Yeah. And then obviously, like it was like. It almost felt like a coming of age moment a wee bit. It was like I think it was like, obviously we know how we play and we're not going to change how we play, but there was an air of professionalism, about the performance, where personally I thought that the 3 lads in midfield made a big difference. I know obviously Rodrigo off injured, which is obviously unfortunate, but I thought the energy that Dallas brings to the midfield, combined with an actual midfielder and Click, and obviously Phillips, missed the last Leicester game. So I thought the midfield was really strong. What did you make of the midfield look?
Yeah, I echo exactly what you say. I think it was a sort of masterclass really from Bielsa to put Dallas in there and just get him to run for 90 minutes. That's pretty much Dallas. I mean, fair play. It had a lot to do with the build up to. I think it was the last goal when he sort of put his shoulder in and stayed strong against the Leicester midfielders and popped it through to Click, who then slid it through for Bamford, who squared it for Harrison on his right foot. But I think the midfield had so much energy in comparison to previous games. I don't know if it's because Click's tired or he does run a hell of a lot. Does Click when he's playing? I think I seen some stats the other day from some former statistician. It wasn't LUFC stats; it was somebody else. He runs the furthest on the pitch every game when he starts. So whether he's just getting a bit tired, but that energy that Dallas brought, some of the tackles and things he put in as well were absolutely just. I think just with the energy that we really needed to go out and win that game was ultimately won in midfield.
Yeah, definitely. I think Dallas's goal was underrated as well. There's all the talking in the media and on Twitter, social media is Bamford's goal. Quite rightly, a stunning goal. But anyone who's played the game would understand how difficult that was for Dallas to actually score the goal that he scored in the way that he scored it. It's so easy to have hit that straight at the goalkeeper, scuffed it wide of the post, but the pure strike just left the keeper stranded. There's part of me that enjoyed that goal more so than I enjoyed Bamford's goal or even the third goal. It's bizarre maybe to some people to comprehend, but I really, really enjoyed that goal. And I felt it was such an important time to score as well, as I've already said. And the other thing I wanted to pick up on was the reaction, because obviously Brendan Rodgers made a change at half time. He brought the other centre half on. They played that 3 centre halves, pushed the fullbacks on. And maybe for that, first 5 or 10 minutes of the second half, we were being overrun. And you could see, through the TV pictures, there was a lot of talk going on the touchline about making a change. And he made a change, didn't he? And just the formation, which nullified the change that Rodgers had made. And I just felt that then came about the right time. It wasn't long after that Bamford scored the worldie, and we were on top from then. And I think it was a masterstroke. A really, I don't know what he did, truthfully, but it was a masterstroke, whatever it was that he did in nullifying the change that Rodgers had made at half time.
I think just to pick up on your first point about the Stuart Dallas one, I think we obviously Bielsa's talked about it a few times, about the fact that sometimes last season we weren't taking our chances, and as you say, there was so much that could have gone wrong with that, the actual shot and the actual strike. The one thing that I really, really enjoyed about the goal as well was I absolutely love seeing a midfielder going past the striker. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's just it's old fashioned. Like nowadays, it's your midfielders are kind of there to protect the fact that you're maybe playing two inside forwards, so to speak, and a striker. And midfields are often for protection. But I love that run, and it's so hard for teams to pick up. And obviously the finish was brilliant. And as Bielsa's talked about how at the start of the season we were I think we had something like whatever it was 9 or 10 chances and we scored 6 goals or whatever, and he was saying that it was impossible to maintain that. And to be fair, that was very one of the chances that maybe last season probably wouldn't have went in, and it was a kind of one where we would have talked about how we're wasting chances, but really it was only a half chance and we took it really well. But yeah, I do think it's interesting, just how Dallas, he's that kind of player where you would talk about you want 11 Stuart Dallases, you could play him just anywhere, he's not you would probably look at Stuart Dallas and think I would have had my doubts whenever we went up that is Stuart Dallas a Premier League player. But Stuart Dallas has been a Premier League player in about 3 or 4 different positions now. Do you know what I mean? And he's done well in them all. On Luke's point earlier is about the about Click and being tired. I have this wee theory that just our midfield hasn't been balanced with since Rodrigo's come in. As much as I like the guy and he has shown in some games some real class, I just think that it just kind of sometimes it almost looks like it's a straight line. Like our midfield, it's kind of like you've got like him playing like a number 10. You've got Calvin Phillips almost right in between the centre backs, and just Click on his own in midfield. And like if you're one man, and it doesn't matter if you're the fittest man in the world, but if you're going up against 2 and 3 man midfields and you're on your own in there, you are going to look tired, and you're not going to look like a good footballer, And I just think that we maybe got a wee bit lucky. Well, not lucky, because I don't want to say lucky, because it's unfortunate that Rodrigo got injured, but we kind of fell into the 3 of them together, and it just looked so balanced, so good. It just really looked good, and I thought it was a real pleasure to watch them, to be honest. Obviously, as you have said, we've picked up a few injuries. Rodrigo, I think, is definitely out tomorrow night, but I think in Bielsa's interview, he said that Bamford and Rafinha, he wouldn't sort of say whether they will play or not tomorrow night, but he says that they're sort of like less problematic, so to speak. How important do you think it is that those 2 are fit tomorrow night, Shaun?
It would be, you'd love to both of them to be fit and able. I think reading between the lines, I don't think Rodrigo is going to be fit. He looked like he picked up a groin injury. They're not easy to shake off. You get one of those and it can be, you come back too early and it could turn into long-term damage. So I don't expect to see him playing tomorrow. Rafinha, I think, from what I've heard and what I've read, he's likely to be available. Your fingers crossed, I think. And the under-23 game that played on Monday night, wasn't it? Tyler Roberts played 30 minutes kind of in that role and then got taken off. I think if Rodrigo's not available, we're likely to see Tyler Roberts playing. That's just my guess, based on what, no knowledge and what I've seen. Rafinha's just been different, isn't he? He's just been something that none of us, I don't care who you are, nobody knew effectively what we were signing when we got him, and in the very early games that he came on for those sort of 20 minutes cameo appearances, you could just see something that we haven't seen at Leeds for a long time. And I think he would be a big miss if he's not available tomorrow, a really big miss. I think we can fill that Rodrigo position, albeit that I think he had an excellent game against Newcastle. I thought he was really good in that game, and he looked decent on Sunday. But you've got a couple of players that could probably fill that space. Rafinha's not playing. You're likely to see Costa playing there, and it's. I hate to say it, but it's been a long time since I've come away from watching Leeds and raved about Costa. A long time. Maybe tomorrow, if he does play, we'll see something. But it's been a while since I've seen something from Costa that's inspired me, if I'm honest with you. So we'll see.
What do you think yourself? Look, how do you think they'll line up in midfield if Rodrigo doesn't make it? Which I don't think Rodrigo will make it, but how do you see them lining up in midfield? And what are your thoughts on Costa as well?
Yeah, well, I'd like to see the midfield that ended the game against Leicester start. Quite rightly, as you said, Gerry, they did look really well balanced. And just to sort of elaborate slightly on that, the Rodrigo thing is, for me, it almost has to feel like he has to play him, I think, Bielsa, because he's so quality. But he's a number 9 for Spain. But then you can't drop Paddy. So I think he's trying to sort of put a bit of a square peg in a round hole, and it's working to an extent. But I think we could be far more balanced if we looked at the midfield of Dallas, KP, and Click, whatever we say, all together. And I would like to see his lineup like that. But yeah, I think you're probably right. I think Tyler Roberts comes in. I think Bielsa's a big fan of Tyler Roberts. I think he's still only 22. Remember, I think because he's been around for quite a bit of time. And he was playing for the first team at West Brom before he joined us as well. I just think we probably take a little bit for granted with him because he's still got a lot of learning to do and a lot. I think there's a class player in there, but I don't think he's quite ready. I think it'd have been a perfect time to send him out on loan this season for the last 6 months, last half of the season to a championship side and get him some real game time under his belt. I think he'd have come back a much better, more rounded player. Sometimes look quite light on the ball, easily to shift. But yeah, I think we will see. I think we will see Roberts come in for Rodrigo on the right. In terms of Rafinha, I think he'll play. I think Bielsa rates him highly enough. I think even if there's a little knock, Bielsa will still play him. If he doesn't, I think you're quite right, Shaun, in what you say with Costa, like for like swap. I think Poveda would have been in with a chance had he not been injured on Monday night.
Yeah.
For a bit more game time. But no, I think Costa comes in. And what do I think of Costa? Mixed emotions really on him. I think he's got elements of class about him, and he's got some real pace, and he's got the tricks and everything. I think we're just spoilt for good wingers, and we probably don't give him enough credit for how good of a player he is because we've got the likes of Jack Harrison on one side and Rafinha on the other. But I still think he's a solid squad player, and he'll do a job when needed.
He started the season well, Luke, didn't he? The first 3 or 4 games really raised my, opinion and obviously the expectations. And then I think that since Rafinha's come in, I don't know if he's got a bit sulky about it. I don't know, or if he's lost his place. I really don't know. But I've not seen much. I've watched a couple of 23 games as well, and he wasn't great on Monday for the 23s and the time he played there. And I think it was the game before when we played. I don't think who we played, but we had a comfortable win, and he looked like he was strolling through that as well. And I don't know. I'd like nothing more if Rafinha's not available tomorrow and he does play. I'd like nothing more to see the game. The sort of performance that we saw in the first 2 or 3 games of the season. So I thought he was outstanding then, if I'm honest with it. But we'll see.
Is there any other of the young lads that could potentially come in? Who plays out there for the top threes? I don't keep much of it. Huggins, does he play on the wing?
No, you've got this.
There's a wee guy, Somerville, is it, or something?
Yeah, crikey. I mean, from the 2 games that I've watched him in the 23s, this kid is. I mean, it's just the 2 games, but in the 2 games I've seen, this kid is lightning, absolutely lightning. And he's the only player I've ever seen who can control a ball like Jack Harrison does. He can pull it. He genuinely put a couple of games, instances in the recent 23 games. He's pulling the ball down from shoulder height, and he's picking it up on the run and moving it in the way that Jack Harrison does. He looks a quality player. He's lightning quick, absolutely lightning quick. So whether Poveda being injured, from what I saw on the 23s on Monday night, I can, there's a potential for this kid sitting on the bench. Who knows? I'd love to see it. I really would, because he excites me in the couple of games I've seen him play. Really good.
I think just on the Helder Costa sort of situation, I think at the time, the start of the season, as you say, Costa was good at the start of the season, and then obviously there was money spent on Rafinha, and like now in hindsight, I think Rafinha is a different level to Costa, but at the time I did feel like Costa was probably playing his best games that he's played for Leeds at the start of the season, and I did kind of feel like it was harsh on him getting dropped at the time. Obviously, we know what we know now, and I personally I think Rafinha is a special player. Like if I was a youngster now, and you're going and you're buying your football kits and getting your names in the back of it, that's the guy. Like that's the one. He's the one that puts bums on seats. Like he's that wee bit of special, and he's got that wee bit of class that you just love seeing in a player. But I thought whenever obviously Rafinha went off and Costa come on, and he looked so bad. He looked, there was just a few touches. It just were really bad, and obviously that'll come with not playing. That'll come with not playing football. So I was interested to see. I kind of felt like the idea was probably if Rafinha is not fit, give Poveda and Costa 45 minutes each, and let them earn the spot, for Wednesday night. Obviously, Poveda get injured, so if Rafinha doesn't make it, it looks obviously then like Costa will get the start. The wee guy we were talking about there is Somerville. I think he came from Feyenoord, and he was. There seems to be I haven't actually seen any of the games that he's sort of starred in. I've seen a few of the under 23s, but I haven't seen any of the ones that you sort of see the Twitter goes crazy for them. Some of these performances that he's threw in, but I seen again. I was at work yesterday whenever the game was on, so I didn't get to see it. But there was a few were mentioning him, and they were also mentioning Gelhardt as well. The guy was playing from Wigan. By all accounts, had a good game. Obviously, if I imagine if Bamford, I know he picked up a dead leg on Sunday. So if there's any doubts about him, I would imagine Tyler Roberts would probably start, but it might push Gelhardt onto the bench, probably between him and Greenwood. But it'll obviously be interesting to see. So what are we thinking? We'll go look first. What do you think of this Everton game tomorrow? What's the ambitions?
I think they're on a wobbly path at the minute, aren't they? They've had some poor results over the last few games. I think since we beat them, I don't think, because were they about fourth when we played them in the league?
Yeah.
I think. Then we beat them, albeit it was a worldie from Rafinha that won the game, but I think we deserve to take that game. I think we'll prove too much for them. I think we've got that head up of steam again. We've got. I'd like to see the teams before I make a full prediction, but I'm going to go Leeds win. But that does very much depend on who is playing up front and who's playing on the right hand side. Whilst I still think we've got class, we don't have class in depth. He's probably one of the it's the Bielsa way, and he doesn't have a replacement like for every single position. He likes to just sort of pull somebody from a different position. But yes, I still see us winning. But the scoreline very much depends on who we've got playing.
What do you think yourself, Shaun?
I'd agree with Luke's points. I think having looked at Everton's last 4 or 5 games, they've lost at home to West Ham. They beat Wolves away, drew with Leicester, lost to Newcastle. And I watched that Newcastle game. If anybody else watched them at the weekend, playing Newcastle, and that wasn't a fluke. I mean, Newcastle, let's be brutally honest about it, are probably up there in the top 2 or 3, worst teams that we've played all season. But they outran Everton. They had the better chances. Callum Wilson just run the back four ragged, and they deserved to win that game. It was one of those really weird, typical Premier League games that we've seen this season, where you expected Everton to go out and win comfortably 3-4-0. They never got a kick. They never got kicked, and they're a funny team. The weirdest thing is they've got. I was having a look earlier today. They're on 33 points, which is 4 more than us. They've got 2 games in hand over the teams above them. They win one of them, they're back up in the top 4. They win both of them, and they're up, up behind Man City, Man United, and Liverpool again. They're literally on it. So there's a big incentive for them to beat us tomorrow night, because it's one of their games in hand technically that takes them into that top 4, top 5. Totally agree with Luke. It depends. It's a bit weird. I'd probably take a point now. I'd probably take a point, as I would. I tend to go to most games, saying to my lad, I'll probably take a point in this one. 38 points, that'll keep us up, no problem at all. But then there's that sort of distant memory, or short, of Sunday, and you think, same team playing the same way, we could go out and beat Everton 3 or 4, on a different day. But I'm gonna say, I'll take a point, and I think it could be a 1 or a 2-all draw. Don't know why. I just think I think their front 3 are strong, aren't they? Calvert-Lewin and the what's his name, the Brazilian that spends most of the game on his backside, doesn't he? Richarlison. Obviously the Spaniard playing. I don't fancy him at the back. but I do think they've got the ability to score against us, as most teams tend to do. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw, if I'm honest with you.
I think they've got plenty of class. They've got some fantastic players. James Rodriguez,
Yeah.
real stars. But I just don't think they've got the energy to play with us, and I think they've got too many stars potentially as well. I think they've probably got a few prima donnas who are quite happy to sit back and see the dirty work get done, whereas sort of 1-11 for Leeds United sort of do it for each other, And I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
I think that's why we've won quite a few games this season. I think that's potentially why we're beaten the first time round this season.
Yeah, would agree. Yeah, I think that was one of our better performances all season, up there in the kind of way with the game that we saw on Sunday. Although it was only 1-0, I just felt that we dominated that game, and it was one of those eye openers, wasn't it, for a lot of other teams? You think, crikey, this is a team that had started the season really well. They were predicting they were going to finish in the top 2, 3, 4, whatever, and we just went there and did a job on them. Did a really, really good job on them. So yeah, but I'm still going to go with the draw. I'm going to sit on that big old prickly fence, Luke, and go with the draw.
I was looking earlier, and obviously we've won our last 2, so I've got it in my head that I really want us obviously to get this 3 in a row, 3 Premier League wins in a row. So I started thinking then, when was the last time we had won 3 in a row? So I done a wee bit of research on it, and it was between Boxing Day 2002 and New Year's Eve 2003 that we last won, obviously 3 in a row in the Premier League. James Milner scored his first Premier League goal in one of those games. So you're talking about his entire career, basically. Obviously, we weren't in the Premier League for most of the time, but you had Milner and Fowler scored away to Sunderland. And
who else scored as well? Milner and
Fowler. Robbie Fowler.
Right, yeah.
And then again, we beat Chelsea 2-0.
Right.
And Milner scored again, and Woodgate.
Right.
And then the third one was we beat Birmingham 2-0, and it was Eric Baca and Mark Viduka scored that day. So it would be nice to retire that record tomorrow night against Everton, which I think we've a good chance. If Rafinha's fit and Bamford's fit, I think we have a very good chance of beating them. I think there's a couple of things that we have to be wary of. Rodriguez is a quality player for Everton. You cannot give that guy any space whatsoever from basically 25 yards of your goal. You cannot give him an inch. And if you give him an inch even further back, his passing will find the pace of Richarlison. So we have to be wary of that. But we'll give them plenty of problems too. So I'm feeling confident about that, and hoping we can get this third Premier League win in a row, which would take us up into a good place. You mentioned Shaun there about we're 4 points behind Everton, which obviously, and like you're saying, Everton aren't that far back from sort of the European places. Do you think that it's time now, that after the win against Leicester at the weekend, that it's time that Leeds could maybe look and start to think, rather than we want to finish 17th or higher, and instead think we could maybe finish 9th or 10th here? Is it time to start looking up, Shaun?
Definitely. I mean, I've said all along, and I was chatting with some pals on Twitter at the weekend, and people were saying we're only now 3-4 wins away from the magical 40 points. Well, I'm not being funny, and when you look at that bottom 3, there is I generally feel if we win tomorrow, that'll give us 32 points. I cannot see Fulham getting 32 points. Somebody tell me or show me how they're going to go from, where are they now, 14 points they're on at the moment, on there, something like that nature, to 32. Can't see it happening. So you're right. I do generally think that we should stop worrying about what's behind us and start looking, without getting ahead of ourselves. Let's be realistic and stay in realistic channel for a little while. But win tomorrow takes you level with Everton, albeit they'll have a game or 2 in hand. But there's teams up there that we've got to play, pick up points. We've got some very, very difficult games coming up, obviously. The big boys, the so-called big boys at the top. but we've got West Ham that sit above us to play, you know, and Arsenal above us to play, win those games, and yeah, you know, you can have that sort of season that Wolves had. Was it last season or the season before? That, you know, you finish in that top sort of 7 or 8, and then you look back on it with, you know, a lot of fondness, don't you? And okay, we haven't been there to watch it and had whatever or been there live, but you look back on it and it's memorable, really, really memorable season. But yeah, I totally agree, Gerry. There's no, I don't. If we can finish 12th or we can finish 16th, okay. Apart from, you know, the accountants thinking, well, you've just cost us £6 million, Shaun, or something. Makes no difference, does it really? You know, there's no way that Fulham, West Brom or Sheffield United are going to catch us. They might catch Newcastle, they might catch Burnley, they might catch Brighton, but they ain't going to catch us. No way. So look forward, look ahead, and be ambitious.
What do you think yourself, Luke?
Well, I wish I was as optimistic. Sure, I wish I shared the same view and passion. That I'm very much of the belief that anything can happen in a game of football or in a season of football, as we see, especially with Leeds United, if it was going to happen to anybody. So I'm very much sort of get to the magical number and then start looking up. I think whilst it might seem pessimistic, I just want to, you know, ensure that we've got Premier League football states for next year is the prerogative. That is what we need. We'll probably go into the summer. Rads will probably spend a bit more money. There's already a couple of rumours about sort of pre-contractual agreements with the Paul and stuff that I've seen floating around. And we'll give it a real push when we're established. You know, I don't want to sort of run before we can walk.
No.
I think that if anything, we've certainly hopefully learned lessons from the last time. And as you say, you know, like it's not a case of like you see teams going out and spending fortunes. Like I think what we done were like we probably spent about 100 million or so, but we spend it on like maybe like about 3 or 4 players, and you know, gradually improving the team. Whereas you see some teams and they go out and spend like that on like 10, 11 players, and it doesn't really work. It doesn't really add up. And I just think just gradually keep it taking over. But I definitely do think that there is. I think we're all right. As you say, Shaun, you know, it's looking at thinking where Fulham going to get these points from. What tends to happen in the second half of the season is some teams are kind of get to the stage where they're not really playing for anything, and the desperation you do start to see funny results involving relegation teams. But like sitting here today, we're as close to Man City and top as we are the 18th. You know what I mean? I think we're 15 points from both, which we're not sitting here saying that we're going to win the league, but you know, I think it's time for us to start saying that we're not going to go down either. And I'm hopeful and confident that that we've set a good standard so far, and I am just all about keeping the manager, keep him, do whatever he wants to keep him happy, just keep him here as long as we can keep him here, because it's one of them things where like the day he leaves, and you're kind of like, right, do we go and become one of them standard Premier League clubs that just like 17th your target, or you know, like Bielsa adds excitement. It's like you're like, I don't know about you guys, but I've watched some of these games involving like the big 6 teams and all this here, and they talk about that these are the teams, and whenever they play each other, it's absolute murder watching it. You know, you're sitting watching it, and it's like, right, do not lose. Whereas we're going into every game, and it's something like it probably like is going to lead to like take like 10, 15 years off each of our life expectancies. Like, but by God, it's good to watch, and it's exciting, and I love it. Like, love watching it, and just keep him there and keep looking up, keep building, just keep the club going the right way and rising. And wherever we finish this season, aim a wee bit higher next year and just keep gradually building it.
Mm.
So I seen one of the wee things I wanted to talk about today was there was a few stories coming out about Pascal Struijk, and saying that apparently Roberto Martinez has been in contact with him about the possibility of playing for Belgium. Apparently, he's eligible for Belgium, Holland, and possibly was it Indonesia, somewhere in Asia. But obviously, he hasn't played that many games for us. But do you think that it's a case of Martinez is trying to get in there potentially for a player and get in ahead of Holland, or do you think it's like he's looking at it and thinking like his performances? I personally don't think his performances yet warrant an international call up, but do you think it's just a wee bit of politics look, or what would you think of that news?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think. I mean, he's played well. Don't get me wrong. When he's played centre back, he's definitely not a central defensive midfielder.
No.
We've identified that. Smashing centre back, mature beyond his years. But is he really a Belgian international when you look at the Belgian starting team? Probably not.
No.
I think there's probably a bit more football politics involved about getting him a cap, so he has to represent Belgium in the future potentially. I'm not sure he'll take it. He's already represented Holland under 17s, I think, as a youth. So I think his nationality is Dutch, and I think he will probably go on to represent the Dutch side in the future.
What do you think yourself, Shaun?
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with Luke. I find it a bit odd sometimes. People, I kind of get it when there's very little opportunity to play for the country of your birth, and then you've got a grandma's, sort of auntie's uncle that allows you to play for the Republic of Ireland or something, and you get the opportunity and you go and play for the Republic of Ireland because you're never going to kick a ball for England or Scotland or not Scotland, but you know what I mean. If you bought, I didn't realise he'd got dual nationality until I read this earlier this week. But I totally agree with Luke. He's done very, very well at centre half this season when he's played centre half. He hasn't looked out of place. I thought, again, going back to Sunday's game, I thought he was outstanding on Sunday. Very, very quiet, unassumed performance. He's not one of those that, he's ever going to win the man of the match award, is he? He kind of just goes under the radar and does the job and just does it simply and does it well. Adds a little bit of strength and height in the back four as well. I think we've looked stronger in defending because I don't know about anybody else, but I sit on the edge of the sofa every time we've got a corner or a free kick against us, and we all sit there just head in the hands waiting for it to happen. The last couple of games that he's played in that back four, I just felt a little bit more comfortable. Only a tiny bit, maybe, but a little bit more comfortable. As Luke said, and I've said many, many times in different forums, he ain't a replacement for Calvin. He ain't a central defensive midfield player. He hasn't got that, in my opinion, forward-thinking ability, passing range, that kind of thing. Whether he's going to play for Belgium or Holland, really, Gerry, isn't really. I really don't matter. It doesn't matter to me. If he plays for either them or Indonesia or Malaysia or wherever it is, he's got the opportunity to play for. Good luck to the lad if he gets that opportunity. But I'd still say play for the birth, the country of your birth. That's my view on it. Given the choice.
I think the some of the media and the Leeds fans on Twitter especially, it's probably a similar attitude where obviously we have no dog in the race as such, or whether it's Belgium or whether it's Holland that he plays for, but just as long as he keeps fit, because obviously we've had a bit of bad luck with international, so I think a few people would be quite happy to see him just not getting a call up for now. But I think it's good as it is good that we've got a young player on our books who is showing talent, and I 100% agree. He's not a midfielder. He's definitely a centre back, and fingers crossed. He can continue to grow, and hopefully before too long, be well worthy of that international call up. But just before we go, then I wanted to speak to Luke. So you mentioned then the Orta know better. So you just want to say just sort of what all you guys are doing at the minute, and obviously we'll post a wee link to the Twitter account and stuff. So if you want to go ahead and tell us about it.
Perfect, thanks, Gerry. Yeah, it was just a bunch. Actually, we're a bunch of mates that met through Twitter, and just created a WhatsApp group, got together, and just decided to give it a go. You know, we all love the same thing. We've all got that common passion. So we just all got together. There's a couple of lads that sort of have a bit of a general idea of how to sort of use a computer and that. And we just have a bit of a laugh more than anything. It started to branch off. We've got a couple of little side shows and spin-offs and things. After every game, we have what's called Baradi and Coke, which is the after-match review. We've got a new segment come out tonight. Cal, an Irish Leeds follower, he's got really close with a Football Association Ireland referee. So we've got the In Off the VAR segment coming soon as well. It's just a bit of a laugh, really. We all get together, you know, a couple of times, 3 times a week, try and get the odd famous person on there where we can. We've had Simon Johnson of ex-Leeds Youth, and Ralph Ineson joined us early on as well. So yeah, just a bit of fun really between the boys and girls that are involved. We all love it. We've got our first night out planned for the end of the year as well, which hopefully, with fingers crossed, we'll be able to attend. But yeah, get on there, have a listen. If you don't like it, you don't like it. There's plenty of F-bombs and C-bombs and things dropped. It's very much an adult podcast. And we say what we think, really, and we quite often don't agree with one another. There's a lot of arguments go on, and behind the scenes, you should be in the WhatsApp group. Christ.
Is a podcast then, Luke? That's available.
Yeah, it's available through YouTube, Acast, Spotify, and Apple Podcast as well.
Okay, cool. Give it a listen then. Yeah.
So does that mean like technically we're rivals then, or what? Like, how does that work then? Like, should we be or?
We're mates, Gerry. We'll always be mates. No, we've got good relationships. I don't think the Leeds podcast Twitter's quite like that just yet. There was talk the other day that some people were falling out and stuff, but yeah, no, it's pretty much like sort of mutual. You know, everyone sort of gets on with each other. I think I asked one of the guys who's a mate of yours actually if he had any contacts that might want to come on as a guest. In terms of sort of ex-players and representatives of the club, and he's put me in touch with. Well, I won't mention it yet, just in case it doesn't happen.
I know who you're talking about, and he like the tackle. Did he like the tackle? Did he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's good that personally, like there's kind of like obviously. Some people are kind of like look obviously to like try and like break in and like do different bits in the media. Like for me, I've only been sort of doing the YouTube stuff for maybe like a few months, but like I've been writing about football for a good bit. For me, I actually came from I used to be a mad gambler, like, and then I stopped with the gambling, and I was kind of like I needed a reason to like I felt like I needed a reason to watch football and stuff, and so I started writing about it, and then like it's gradually, but it's funny, like it is good, like you kind of meet people from different areas, and you get talking, and like it's I think it's fun, like, and definitely I'll post whenever I'm sharing sharing this later. I'll post a wee link to the account, the Twitter account, and then I'll post the links in that as well. So anyway, we have the game tomorrow night, 7:30 kickoff, which is obviously an interesting time. So, was it right, Shaun? You said a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think a 1-1 draw, a push 2 each. But yeah, I think a 1-1 draw. I'll settle for that tomorrow.
Yeah. And look,
I'm going to go for a 3-1 win.
3-1 win. I'm going to go for 2-1. I sort of seem to just keep saying 2-1 all the time in these, but
you do.
2-1 for us, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, so no, my thanks to Shaun, who I think is this your second time on.
Yeah, anytime, Gerry. You know, if I'm free and able, and you've got nobody else to fill the slot, then I'm a soft southerner that just talks bollocks, so I'm happy to come on there anytime, mate.
But no, thanks very much for coming on, and thanks to Luke as well. This is a debut, technically, I suppose they would talk about. But hopefully not the last time.
No, love to come back on. As I say, I might even try and get a couple of the better looking bunch out of, or no, better to come and give you a bit of a performance as well. They'll pop on and say their piece as well, because we all do share very similar but also quite differential views as well sometimes. So it'd be worth getting one or two of those on at some point.
I think that's one thing I've wanted to do with like if I'm here all the time and I'm giving my views, like your views aren't different, and then I think as gradually as more people come on and more guests come on, and you'll start to see like, right, that person really likes that player or that person really doesn't like that player, and then just to set the world alight, just put them on together and have them argue, but just a bit of fun, but no, as I say, thanks very much, lads, for coming on, and fingers crossed we'll get that elusive third Premier League win in a row.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming on, and thanks to everybody that's watched. And we will be back tomorrow night. I know myself and JK so far are lined up for the after match edition. So fingers crossed it'll not be a morbid affair. So thanks very much, and catch you all then. Thanks.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.